Hello, my name is Derek Christensen, and I will be presenting upon my research paper titled Fundamentals of Moral Courage. Now, first going through the introduction of what I researched is moral courage, first off, is more than just a simple dilemma. There's a seriousness to its nature. There's got to be something of great value on the end of the line, and more than just what kind of sandwich am I going to eat for lunch. There's a serious nature beyond it. John S. Murray stated it this way: moral courage is a highly esteemed trait displayed by individuals who, despite adversity and personal risk, decide to act upon their ethical values to help others during difficult ethical dilemmas. These individuals strive to do the right thing even though others choose a less ethical behavior, which may include taking no action at all. So just as Murray stated, it is more than just a simple dilemma. Sometimes you've got to stand alone, and that's not very comfortable. People don't like being alone. It's human nature to have a sense of belonging, but you've got to go beyond that, and you've got to make that stand. It is important to know what moral courage is, because it sheds light upon the actions that we are facing. So the body of my research describes the fundamentals of moral courage. Now there's 4 principles that I go over, and it's not limited to, but the 4 that I focus on is education, desire, action, and consistency. So first off with education. As it is true to our general existence, learning is key to achieving success. We've always got to be learning. Now with moral courage, yes, I've known decisions that had great value upon what I chose or not. However, I never really heard the term of morally courageous until later on in life. So I see it as important that we need to be educated to put words into perspective of what we are making. For when we can put words to what we are choosing, we have a better understanding. We can make the right decision, and we have a little more umph to what we're going to decide. David Molyneux stated about this educational courage as follows. Courage cannot be grasped by intelligence alone. So even though we're educated, courage is not just that. It is a stepping stone of where we can be courageous. And Matthew Pianalto stated it this way: for one to take a moral stand, one must implicitly acknowledge the moral agency of those against whom one's stand is taken. Applying this concept to the accounting profession, it is critical to acknowledge and educate oneself on the moral differences that takes place in the industry. It is a growing problem of an ethical decision that needs to stop now. The next principle that I want to share about is desire. Starting off with just a personal story of desire. My mom would always say growing up, "Derek, why didn't you do what I asked?" I didn't think much of it, but thinking back, it is because I really didn't have a desire what she wanted me to do. Whether it's going to go do dishes, go mow the lawn, when it's in the heat of the day, I just didn't have a desire to do it. And hence, since I didn't have a desire, I didn't go and actually do it. So when one does not have desire towards a task in life, failure is usually the outcome. So we've got to have a desire. Now, Colonel John Murray stated it this way: morally courageous professionals persevere to stand up for what is right, even when it means when they do so alone. And once again, with desire, even though we're going to be alone, we've got a desire to choose what is right. I stated it earlier, and I'm going to keep stating it: you've got to stand even if you are alone. Now, with action. Action is a verb. You've got to go out and do. It is not just something you talk about theoretically. It is something that you go out and do once more. So Lasala and Arnason had a pretty neat quote, and it states this: Individuals at the highest level of moral development use their conscience to determine the right course of action by independently examining and delineating moral values and principles rather than by relying on group norms. So once more on action, can't necessarily follow the group, but you've got to put your own desires aside. And an American poet by the name of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Now this quote is found all over the place, but it states, "The world is upheld by the veracity of good men. They make the earth wholesome." Actions set forth examples. What kind of example do we want to set forth, especially for a profession of accounting? We can make the earth wholesome. From us making a stand, it makes others want to make a stand. It just kind of needs, some people just need someone to initially do it, and the rest will follow. With consistency, even though we may have desire, we're going to act, we've been educated, we have to be consistent in what we are doing. Otherwise, that example will be diminished. It'll seem as hypocrites, they kind of do whatever they want, they're unreliable. We've got to be consistent. Now this consistency goes from the top down. Management has got to set that example of being consistent, of their morally courageous decisions, of not just going to make an accounting entry to make them look good, but actually make them look good. And when they don't, that they make a stand and say, hey, we're not going to be unethical, we're going to take the hit, but we're going to do this the right way. Now there's a quote by Luminata Ionescu. It's from Spiro Herit University, said, "Leadership establishes whether a company is long-sighted and able to integrate ethics successfully into strategy." Now that's what I was mentioning. It also went on to say, "Effective and dynamic leadership can transform the dangers posed by ethical challenges into commercial opportunities." I see great value in taking the moral stance of being morally courageous. Opportunities will arise, and we've got to take hold of those. Now, leadership has a tremendous amount of responsibility to show the needed culture of these opportunities. They can point out, saying, "Hey, we could have been unethical. We could have done it this way, but we're gonna make that stand." So, being persistent in the action of being morally courageous is necessary. Now, kind of closing up with a summary, the importance of fundamental principles. Now, being kind of a sport enthusiast, especially with basketball, my coach would always say that fundamentals win ball games, or it's always in the fundamentals. So in practice, you'd always focus on those fundamentals. You don't go and work on the half-court shot, but it's the dribblings, it's the free throws. Now that is where ball games are won, and that is where we need to practice and educate ourselves. Now I also have a little note of who relies on the accounting profession, and in reality everybody does. Our whole fiscal policies relies on what we do as accountants, and our whole economy for that matter. So we owe it to ourselves, our families, our communities, and the world to consistently exercise our moral courage. We need to be morally courageous. They rely upon us, they need us, and we've got to make the stand. So in closing, just as Emerson acknowledged, we have the potential to shape the very world we live in by being good men. Therefore, maintain the title of moral courage throughout your life. Thank you.